We've experimented with this with people with diabetes, a very typical long-term condition, as a sort of pilot for ourselves really to see how it goes. What we started doing in their birthday month, when they have their annual review, we invite them in proactively and we collect some information about them. The sort of stuff we've always collected as doctors, so you know, their blood pressure, their sugar score, their cholesterol and so on. But we've also started collecting their activation level. So that when we then sort of review what's going on with them, we sort of do a triage process when that data comes back. So we look and we basically have two axes. We have on the bottom the sort of more traditional one, what I call their medical complexity, and we just sort of divide them into two. Is their health condition controlled? You know, we've got loads of targets. We know what targets people should aim for. So are they controlled for their condition, or are they not? Okay. And then we look at their activation. And to keep it really simple, we've just said, are they level 1 or 2, so more lower activation, or are they level 3 or 4? And that enables us to split people into to different groups. So you've got your first group where there's low complexity, so their health condition is well controlled. Everything's all right with their diabetes, but if you spread it out, it could be their COPD, it could be with their asthma, it could be whatever their long condition is, but everything's to target. And they are highly activated. So for this group, we're leaving them alone. Do you know what I mean? They're doing fine, you know? So actually what we've been saying to them, you know, you can kind of suggest some supported self-management. I think you're starting to do this here, starting to sort of direct people towards things they can look at themselves. And in our practice, we just write them a letter and say, fantastic, you've had your review, your diabetes is nicely controlled, you look like you're on top of things, give us a shout if you need any help, but at the moment, things are cool. So don't waste an appointment coming to see us, but don't waste your time, and to a degree, don't waste our time, because you know, you're doing fine. The next group are so high complexity, high activation, so there's something up with their condition. But they're high activated. So these are the people I think that we in the health professions could have a really good conversation with, because they're kind of up for it. You know, as we've talked, they're up for talking our level. They're less overwhelmed perhaps than lower activations, and there's something to get your teeth stuck into. So they tend to get invited in to see our nurses, and I've trained our nurses, or you know, we've trained through our system for them to be health coaches. So they have a health coaching conversation. We give them longer because they're seeing less people in the system, and they have 30 minutes, and they make a care plan with them. They go through, you know, what's important to you, what's going on, what do you want to address, where do you want to start. You know, if they're a level 3, it's kind of like reviewing what's happened, what's gone on, what's gone well, what's not worked so well, you know, where do you want to go to next. You know, if they're a level 4, it's like, okay, how are you going to address, you know, there's some things here, how do you propose addressing it perhaps, you know, we make a bit of a plan with them. So that, in contrast to this group of people down here, so now, same stuff up for their condition, but actually they're low activation. So what we would call high complexity but low activation. So this is where I think the leap of faith comes in for me, and it's basically saying, okay, there is some medical stuff to get stuck into, but actually we're probably not the best people to lead off with this, because we really easily overwhelm people. We want to jump in as doctors and nurses and sort out their blood pressure, you know, just chuck them some medicines, you know, sort of like, you know, we're banging on at them, wagging a finger, and it often doesn't work. So we've been having a much more sort of social prescribing model. So the sort of things probably that you guys are doing actually, getting alongside them, trying to find out what's going on, what are the pressures, what are the issues, and trying to help them just make a little bit of a sense of where they want to start with their health, if they even want to start at all. Do you know what I mean? Because we know that actually addressing your wider determinants of health can actually lead to good health outcomes anyway. So, but there's a bit of a leap of faith here, because as sort of doctors and nurses, we're having to sort of suspend that overwhelming urge to kind of fix them and sort them out. And maybe we're having to sort of like tolerate the numbers not being right for a bit, you know, which is a challenge for us. It's definitely a challenge. And then the last group here, so low complexity, low activation. We're a bit less worried about them because their condition's well controlled. You know, there's not health complexity going on, but they're low activated, so they're often perhaps not going to be so proactive. So we tend to sort of work on a more prevention model. So we think about, you know, what is it that could actually just perhaps build their activation. We're less kind of sort of, you know, feeling less anxious about them, less critical about it, but it's still important because there's a big risk I think these people can quickly come across and be the people who then you know, high complexity, low activation. So what we do in the practice, we write a letter, we bring them into the nurses, and these two groups here, we have a shared decision process. So one of our, probably someone like, you know, a peer support, health coach, health trainer, will phone them up and say, look, looks like either there's stuff with your condition or not, but actually, you know, that you may be slightly struggling with things, you may be sort of like, you know, you may benefit from a little bit more time with somebody to help you make sense of what's going on. And they take them through various options of things they could see. They could see a health trainer, they could see someone from Age UK, they could see someone who might give them some digital support, or someone around housing. And so someone who can talk to the range of options and see what happens. And what we've been finding is sort of pretty much 2/3 of the time people will go, yeah, that sounds good, I'll go for that, yeah, that'll suit me. About 1/3 of the time they're saying, no, it's not for me. And they'll either say, no, I want to see the nurse, as I always have done, no problem, or actually, to be honest, at the moment, it's just too much going on, I want to be left alone. And we're sort of trying to respect that kind of thing, having known that we've had that balanced conversation with them. And what's really interesting, what's working out for us, is that that's about 20% of our people with diabetes. That top right there is about 40%, 25 and 15%. So suddenly, you know, we're focusing all our efforts to start off with on people who we think we can really make a difference with. And then the people who are seeing the social prescribing groups, probably about 10% of the total, if you like, overall, so sort of about 1/3 of them are trickling back to see the nurse again, but in a much more kind of prepared state, and a much more, okay, right, I think I'm ready to have a health conversation now. So it's just, I just sort of put it out there as a model to just sort of like get, just thinking a little bit differently about how you can potentially use activation to kind of be, you know, to tailor your resources.